Republican politicians think that the people who follow them are stupid. They also make the assumption that you don't read, that you can't read, and that you can't comprehend. My question to you is not to our progressive base, but to our MAGA base, to a Republican base. Will you allow these guys to continue to assume you're not very smart? Tim Scott comes out and he points out that, or he tries to make the point that the tax cuts that Donald Trump passed in 2017 actually generated more revenues because of this tax cut. He also tries to give the implication that tax cuts throughout our history brought more revenue to the United States government, as opposed to the natural progression of revenue as a market expands. And the reality is, tax cuts do not give more revenue than they cost, number one. And number two, the multiplier, that which creates a successful economy, is not generated by tax cuts. It's not generated on the supply side. It is generated on the demand side. I give every American more money, okay? In other words, I raise your wages. I make sure that you have more money in your pocket. You create the demand by spending that money. When the factories see that you need more product, they'll make more product. On the supply side, when you give rich people money in the form of a tax cut, they decide just maybe we will manufacture a product, or maybe we'll just stuff this money in the Cayman Islands. It's not rocket science, and the math explains it. You can look at the charts. When Republicans are in power and give tax cuts, the budget deficit balloons and the amount of the economic growth is stunted. This is not out of my mouth. This is what the data tells you. Now, Tim Scott, I want you to listen to him, because he believes, or not, he knows better, but he has no problems lying to those of you who listen to him. But you know what? Lawrence O'Donnell and the professor, the historian, really got him taken care of. Ornstein knows what he's talking about. Let's listen to this and then take it on the other side.
You can try, but you're going to find it's very hard to be more wrong than Republican Senator Tim Scott.
In 2017, the CBO said the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act would increase the deficit and the debt by trillions of dollars. Well, what happened? They were wrong. Now, this is not surprising. They were wrong on the Mellon tax cuts in the 1930s. They were wrong on the Kennedy tax cuts in the 1960s. They were wrong on the Reagan tax cuts in the 1980s. When have they been right? I don't know either. But what I can tell you, 2017 TCJA produced a 3% increase in revenues in 2018 and another 3% in 2019. Why? Because the Laffer curve is right. If you lower taxes, you increase production, and that means more revenues for the government. It always has worked. I think it always will work. CBO, wrong then, wrong now.
And Norm Ornstein is back with us. And Norm, I know CBO, Congressional Budget Office, didn't exist until 1974. So the whole thing about the 1920s tax cuts and the 1960s tax cuts, what else might the senator have gotten wrong there?
Well, the idea that the 2017 tax cuts increased revenue, which of course has been a fallacy that we've seen with every set of these tax cuts all along the way. I have to tell you, Lawrence, watching that, I was a consultant on Veep for several seasons. If Jonah Ryan, who anybody who watched Veep remembers, had seen that, he would have said, how dumb can anybody be? But this is now par for the course. It's lying about what's in the bill. It's, of course, Tim Scott's colleagues all saying, along with Donald Trump, we're not going to cut anybody off of Medicaid, when we know that the bill, whether it's the one that the House passed or the one that the Senate is now tinkering with is going to cut millions of people off the rolls, and they're probably going to do a worse job of it, or a tougher job in the Senate itself. All of the things that they've discussed, where the tax cuts are going to affect people, we know now from all of the best and objective analyses. And the CBO, by the way, the director of it, is somebody I know well, a longtime Republican who served as an assistant Treasury secretary in the Bush administration. The idea that they're spinning things to benefit Democrats is itself farcical. What we know is that they can call this the big, beautiful bill, but that's like calling Hannibal Lecter the big, beautiful guy.
The big budget bills like this are always, I think, hard to follow for people out there, even trying to follow the news. And one of the things that's so striking about this is that there's very, very powerful polling on it. It has a 64% unfavorable. And that's actually hard to get. It's hard to get a 64% opinion about legislation as big and bulky and complex as this.
And, the other part of this that is so striking is that the people who will be hurt the most if any version of this bill passes are the Republicans' constituents. The first ones hurt by the Medicaid cuts, along with working and poor Americans, are rural hospitals. Mm-hmm. We know hundreds of rural hospitals will be closed as a consequence. They can't get by without the revenues from Medicaid. The tax cuts are going to add a burden, along with whatever tariffs we finally get in this bizarre process, are a burden on working class and poor Americans, all to benefit ginormous tax cuts for the wealthiest among us. It's no wonder that people, even if they don't know much in the details about this, understand that this is a destructive bill. And while we have differences between the House and Senate Republicans and no Democrats involved in any way, at some point they're going to have to pass something. We have a debt ceiling and default possibility looming sometime in the next few months. We could get a government shutdown before October 1. So they're going to have to do something. And there is nothing that suggests that what they're going to do is going to be constructive for the vast majority of Americans.
And these Republicans are going to vote in this bill on a huge increase in not just the debt, but the debt ceiling. They're going to vastly expand how much the debt can go up even beyond this bill.
That's one area where they're going to have to be relatively honest. What we know is from the Congressional Budget Office, from all of the best forecasters at universities and elsewhere, we're talking multiple trillions in increases in the debt that's already very high. And we also know if you add in the extra costs that come because interest rates inevitably are going to go up. They're going to go up because of tariffs. They're going to go up because we're not going to be able to attract investment from abroad in the dollar or in America. And that itself adds even more to the debt burden. It's a multiplying factor. And, for people who have portrayed themselves, and often our media, a hobby horse of yours and mine, keep calling them fiscal conservatives. They are exactly the opposite of fiscal conservatives. They are fiscal radicals.
Folks, it is time for us to stop allowing these guys to lie and get away with it. They lie, they put some stuff out, and, everybody eventually finds out it's a lie, and then they get a break. I think it is time for us to frame them as liars. We need to stamp them. We need to put a scarlet letter on them so that at no point is their word considered valid. And the mainstream media has to do its part. This guy comes out and lies on air. He should have access to the air. You shouldn't be seeking liars to go on air. You should be looking for people who come and defend their point of view. I mean, the people who want tax cuts for the rich should come out and defend why they want tax cuts for the rich, because those are the people who supply them with their funds. These are the people they think they honestly believe the rich are better people than their base. Come out and honestly say it. Don't lie to the base and then have them frustrated about who is to blame for their demise. And likewise, a direct message to MAGA, a direct message to the conservative working class people, a direct message to poor people who have a tendency to vote for Republicans and conservatives. They are lying to you. They don't think you have much upstairs. They don't think you have the ability to critically think. And because of that, they continue to harm you day in and day out. When you vote for these guys, you remember what you're doing is you are voting to keep yourself poor, to keep your wages down, and to ensure that your wealth goes to those few at the top. That's not a statement. That's not a hollow statement. That is a statement of fact that if you choose to critically think and if you choose to research, you will come out with exactly what I just said.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.